Tomorrow we're gonna go to San Juan Island. We're gonna get there on a ferry, and should be kind of a nice longer ferry ride, so we'll get the whole ferry experience. Yeah, it's an hour ferry ride to San Juan Island.
Let's head back down to the car. I can see Friday Harbor right there.
Okay.
So American Camp was established in 1859 and ended in 1872. In this obelisk here, it says the first officer in charge of American Camp was Captain George E. Pickett, 9th U.S. Infantry. You might recognize that name. That's Pickett of Pickett's Charge. Oh, that says here, as arbitrator, Wilhelm I, Emperor of Germany, decided the San Juan case, October 21st, 1872. And this little monument was erected in October 21st, 1904 by the Washington University State Historical Society.
We're at American Camp. Just right here is the laundress quarters. Let's go see if we can see anything inside.
Is the door even open?
I don't think so.
There's a fireplace in there.
Looks like they're still making it restored.
Yeah, I don't know. Could this even be an original building?
I mean, they put a foundation under it.
Hard to say. It just seems unfortunate that they're not flying the American flag on the flagpole. Not really sure what that's all about. Apparently this behind me is the officers' quarters. When Captain George Pickett abandoned Fort Bellingham in 1859 to set up here on San Juan Island, he dismantled many of Bellingham's buildings and brought the materials here. This officers' quarters was built by Pickett using some of the former post's materials. The double frame quarters was a duplex and first housed Pickett and First Lieutenant James W. Forsyth. And so I'm thinking these have to be replica buildings that are here now. hard to say just looking at the building, other than it's hard to imagine a building from that era to still be here, but I'll see if I can confirm that, that these are actually replicas. And there's no looking inside this one. The windows are really dark and the shutters are closed. So we'll just have to look at the outside. The Americans, in preparation for an attack by the British that never came, built up their defenses by constructing this redoubt. Named Robert's Redoubt after Henry M. Robert, the engineer in charge of constructing it. Redoubts are a fort or fort system, usually relying on earthworks. It is meant to be a defensive structure to protect soldiers and can be a permanent or hastily constructed temporary fortification. So you can see the earthen bank along here, and it's either been dug out or built up, but you can see the bank as it goes around the redoubt. This is actually pretty cool. Wow. Okay. So this bank was built up, and then this feature here, this looks like where one of the cannon would have been placed, right in this spot. And it looks like there's 3 of those, another one over there, maybe one in this corner. Yeah, this is kind of built up, looks like a cannon would have been here, another there, maybe even another one in that corner. And then it's kind of a lower area for protection behind the bank, behind the redoubt. Wow, what an amazing view. And this looks like it was cut to create a slope here. Look at these really big boulders. I imagine they're probably erratics that are strewn about. You can see why he chose this position. There's an incredible field of view that would have been very difficult to attack without being fired upon, the entire time you're coming up these slopes. And for those of you that are geology buffs, look at the size of this erratic. It's pretty incredible to think a glacier left this here. And there's a plaque on it honoring Lieutenant Henry Martrin Robert, U.S. Engineer, 1859, placed by Governor Isaac Stevens, Chapter Daughters of the American Revolution, and other chapters. The first light at Cattle Point was a lens lantern on a post erected in 1888. In 1921, the United States installed a radio compass station at this location. It's a tiny lighthouse. The 34-foot octagonal concrete tower you see today was constructed in 1935. Not so easy to get up to the door. We're at Cattle Point, and behind me is this really large kelp forest that you can see out there that kind of spans the whole width of the point here. It's pretty cool.
It's really beautiful. Not just because there's a little lighthouse out here, but the view itself is really beautiful. And it's a nice day, so come here. We're looking out here across the Strait of Juan de Fuca, and the Olympic Peninsula is just over there. You can barely see it.
There's a lot of birds down there. So I'm kind of speculating here, but I feel like there used to be more sand here covering this foundation.
Yeah.
And it's weathered away, so it's exposed. But I just feel like it just wouldn't be this exposed. And then that would also explain why the door is all the way up there, but there's no stairs. So right below me here is the old lime kiln. Let's see what this information panel has to say. The lime operations dramatically changed the landscape at Lime Kiln Point State Park. Starting in 1860 and spanning a period of almost 90 years, the mining blasted deeply into the hillsides and the surrounding forest was clear-cut for firewood to fuel the kilns. Lime comes from limestone, the sedimentary rock formed by the consolidation of marine invertebrate skeletons. There's a drawing here that shows the deforestation of the hillsides and mining, and then the kiln right there. Then the lime being loaded onto ships. Apparently you had to get the limestone to about 2,000 degrees Fahrenheit to transform it into lime. So it looks like they've built this frame around it to hold the lime kiln together. So you can see there at the top is the chimney for the kiln. Wow, those are pretty big timbers. Well, let's go down to the bottom and take a closer look. Apparently there's really steep stairs you have to go down. Okay, time to be careful. Okay, so here's kind of the mid-level. I don't really know how this worked, but I'm thinking that wood would have been placed at the bottom, and then maybe this is where the limestone was added and turned into lime here. And then it would burn, as the wood burned down, that you would then collect the lime at the bottom. Purely speculating, I don't see any kind of information panel explaining how it works. Looks like there's same kind of hatch on the far side, so something could be loaded from both sides. If you know how a lime kiln works, let me know in the comments below. Okay. Well, this definitely looks like where the lime would have come out of after the limestone was processed. So I think right here behind me is where the superheated limestone, once it was turned into lime, would come out this chute. And I guess right here there must have been a pier for loading onto ships. Wow. It's pretty clear water. So I think right here is where the ships would come in, and the lime would be put in barrels and then loaded on the ships. I don't see any sign of any kind of a wharf or pier infrastructure, but there had to have been some interface between the land and where the ships were coming in. If you look right here, you can see a whole layer of lime that's kind of cascading down the hillside right here. So this is just right below the kiln. And then across over here is another hillside that's all white with lime, making me think there may have been another kiln just right up there in the trees above that. There's even some lumber sticking out of that lime deposit. And then there's this little kelp forest right here. Looks like it goes all along the shoreline. Yep, all the way down that way. Okay, so there is a second lime kiln right above that big area of lime wash that was going down into the sea. And here it is. This one is in definite need of consolidation. Wow. So it's pretty cool, actually. In some ways it's kind of built like a castle or a castle tower, because you have the outer stones, and then inside the wall, the core of the wall is rubble, and then the interior of the kiln, now this is where it deviates from a castle wall or tower, is the inside of the kiln is lined with brick, some kind of fire brick. And then there on the right, all the cornerstones or quoins are missing. You know, as I'm walking out, I'm just looking around, and there's a lot of stone on the surface here. And this stone matches the stone that's used in the kilns. I think it makes sense that they used local stone, and apparently they did. So here you have the lighthouse keepers' houses. I assume one of them's the head lighthouse keeper and the other one's for the assistant lighthouse keeper. Lime Kiln Lighthouse borrows its name from the lime kilns built in the area in the 1860s. The lighthouse watches over the entrance to the Haro Strait. The Lighthouse Board first recommended a lighthouse on the western side of San Juan Island in 1908. The lighthouse consists of a 38-foot octagonal tower rising from a concrete fog signal building. Construction of the lighthouse started in August of 1918, and the lighthouse began operations on June 30th, 1919. Built in 1919. It's closed today, so there's no going inside. Well, of course, it's closed today on a Tuesday, but we'll peek in the windows and see what we can see. Whales last sighted September 21st. Let's see, 4 orcas with a baby twice that day. And then you can see the stairwell going up to the light. So this location, Lime Kiln Point, is a very popular place for whale watching. So if you're into whale watching, you're on San Juan Island, you might spend some time here with some binoculars. In 1859, during the Pig War, when Great Britain and the United States agreed to jointly occupy San Juan Island, they decided their camps should be on opposite ends of the island. The British selected the site of English Camp on Garrison Bay, 15 miles northwest of American Camp. Do you want to go to the parade ground or the officers' quarters overlook first?
Let's do the officers' quarters overlook first, because it's right here.
Okay. Oh, this is going to be a good view. Wow, that water's really still. There's like no waves.
Look at that pretty English garden down there.
I'm glad you chose to come up here. No British flag. So we're standing up here on this height overlooking English Camp, and this informational panel here is saying that this flat area up here on the side of the hill is where the officers' homes were located, and they were able to, from their homes, overlook the bay and the camp itself.
This panel talks about how the final commander, Captain William Delacombe, ordered the garden below, the enlisted men's vegetable garden then, be moved and a new formal flower garden be planted in its place. This garden is arranged in a garden-esque style, which was popular in Victorian England, and Mrs. Delacombe's garden apparently became the dividing line of sophistication between the officers and their families and the enlisted ranks, which were quartered down below at the parade grounds.
It's cool how you can see where they would bring in ships to this pier. When the Royal Marines landed here in March 1860, they found the remains of an Indian village, likely used for 1,000 years. A clamshell and bone refuse heap, a midden, 900 feet long and 350 feet wide, stood on the site. Clams were abundant in the bay and a staple food for the Indians. The Marines found parts of an Indian lodge too, estimated to be 600 feet long by 60 feet wide. They dismantled the lodge and spread the clamshells to accommodate 13 bell tents and 2 larger officer tents. It makes sense to me that this would have been the location of a Native American village. We're in this really protected bay. I mean, right now, like, the waters are really calm and it's really flat right here. I could see it. And it makes me wonder, if we look along the shoreline, if we'll be able to see any evidence of that former shell midden. So we will take a look. So now we're looking up at the hill where the officers' quarters were located. So this English garden here is kind of the separation point between the officers up on the hill and the enlisted down here on the parade field. Yeah, so they had the married officers' quarters on the left. More to the right there was the bachelor's officers' quarters, the officers' mess hall, and the surgeon's quarters, with the commanding officer's house on the very top.
I think English camp is more beautiful than the American camp. I think they picked a better spot. Maybe just because there's sort of more like context here. I can envision how it used to be better. It was kind of hard to see that at the American camp. Behind me here is the parade grounds, and the enlisted men were quartered here.
The sun really hasn't gotten down in here yet. So behind me here is English Camp's blockhouse. This little information panel is saying that it was based off of the American camp's blockhouse, and the second floor has been turned 45 degrees in order to give the blockhouse the ability to fire in all directions around it. It says here the upper story turned 45 degrees on its base, protected soldiers from all angles as they aimed their rifles out the loopholes. And then it's saying that it also acted as a guardhouse with the first floor as a guard room, and then Marines that were in trouble for misconduct were also held here as a jail. Yeah, so the second story was also a prison for the Marines when they got out of hand. The interpretive panel back there said that there was once this really large shell midden that went from one end of this area to the other, and you can actually still see signs of it. We're not supposed to cross this fence. It's saying this is a sensitive habitat area, but if you look along here, you can see a layer of midden just right here at the ground surface going down to where the salt grass starts. And it runs, I can see it all the way from the blockhouse going in that direction. It's basically, you can see lots of different kinds of shells in a dark organic matrix or a dark soil. And in fact, right here, you can see some midden coming through the grass. These different shells in this really dark soil. It's pretty cool, so you see midden, you know that there was people living right here. Even though it's disturbed, right now we're walking on shell midden. All of this area, the parade field, as it leads to the shoreline, has shell midden underneath it.
So here at English Camp, we have some Coast Salish story poles. The story poles to the left and right are male and female salmon, and then the one in the middle is a reef net captain. These story poles were carved from cedar and gifted to the park by two master carvers from local tribes.
The center pole represents the shwala, or reef net, flanked by carved figures of the female and male salmon. Together, they share the story of reef netting, a sophisticated fishing technology created by Coast Salish people of the San Juan Islands, and the deep relationship between the people and the salmon that sustain them. You definitely can see a person there with a net with fish in it. Looks like net weights along this rope coming down. It's pretty cool. So this interpretive panel here actually gives you a really good feel of how English Camp looked. There's a lot of buildings here. I just want to point out a few. So there's a hospital here. It's showing the enlisted man barracks. Then you had a library and a school, a carpenter shop. And then all of the officers' buildings, all the officers' houses up on the hill. the formal garden and the blockhouse, and then all you see right here was the parade field. The Royal Marines landed here March 21st, 1860, and established English camp. By the time they left 12 years later, the Marines had 27 structures, 2 wharfs, 2 wells, a pasture, a formal garden, several roads, and much fencing. Before Euro-Americans settled at Roche Harbor and named it Roche Harbor, this was the location of a coast Salish community. British Marines established a presence here in 1860 after Great Britain and the United States claimed the San Juan Islands and agreed to a joint military occupation until the territorial dispute could be resolved. Roche Harbor was named after British Lieutenant Richard Roche. British Marines quarried and processed limestone at Roche Harbor. The lime industry continued after the British left in 1872. While various business concerns owned Roche Harbor and operated the lime industry here, in 1886 Roche Harbor was purchased by John S. McMillin, who established the Tacoma and Roche Harbor Lime Company. The McMillins owned Roche Harbor until 1956, when Roche Harbor was sold to the Tart family, marking the end of the lime industry at Roche Harbor and the beginning of Roche Harbor as a resort. I'm actually delightfully surprised.
Are you?
This is really nice.
Yep. Very sweet village. This one's a good one. Claiborne, made in Canada.
Yeah, T-Car. Yeah, I know that. An Atlas. I know these.
It's like we've seen this before.
So something Aaron just noticed is these pavers here, these bricks. They're actually have been brought from some other source and put here, but you can see that they each have the maker's mark on each brick. As an example, like here is a Snowball. You have Claiborne, you have T-Car, Atlas. There's quite a few. Came from all around North America, and I think even some of them as far as the United Kingdom. Behind me here is the Hotel de Haro. I've read that it's a somewhat famous historic hotel. We're gonna go peek inside and see if we can at least see a little bit of the interior. The hotel is named after the Spanish explorer Captain Lopez de Haro, who discovered and named the San Juan Islands in 1787. The Hudson Bay Company built a log structure on the site sometime between 1845 and 1850. John S. McMillin built the Hotel de Haro around the original log structure in 1886. You can view the 1-foot thick logs through the opening in the wall just to the right of the entrance and at the top of the stairs on the second floor. Wow, look at these timbers. The building foundation is constructed of logs and the roof is of concrete. Originally, the ground floor housed dining rooms and a kitchen. McMillin wanted a place to accommodate visiting customers and dignitaries. They included President Theodore Roosevelt, who was brought to Roche Harbor by a U.S. Navy destroyer in the summer of 1906. He stayed in room number 2A, which is now named the Presidential Suite. President William Howard Taft also stayed here during his term in office. Other famous visitors enjoyed the hotel under the Tart's ownership, including John Wayne, who languished in the huge clawfoot tub in his suite. Roche Harbor was a full-blown company town by 1890. In 1956, McMillin's son Paul sold the entire town to the Tart family. The hotel, which had been closed since 1942, was restored and reopened as a resort hotel on New Year's Eve, 1960. Well, that was a little peek into the Hotel de Haro. I was asked to not film the front desk or any guests, but kind of walked around and took a quick look. What do you think of Roche Harbor?
It's very sweet and quaint. It does feel like a little English seaside village.
Yeah, I think it has kind of a European vibe to it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I really like it. So the bricks we're walking on, and we talked about a little earlier, actually originally were the bricks that lined the lime kilns. And speaking of lime kilns, we'll go take a look at the ruins of a couple that are left.
It's all filled in.
You can't see anything?
No, it's all filled in.
So it's interesting. Apparently the British started producing lime here first, and then it was bought by other people, with the last owner being the McMillin. And our next stop after Roche Harbor, we're gonna go check out the McMillin Mausoleum. Are you ready to see the mausoleum, Erin?
Yeah, I'm excited.
It's supposed to be pretty cool. So let's go.
Okay. Just up the hill from us here is the McMillin family mausoleum. So come with us and check it out.
The McMillin Mausoleum's actual name is Afterglow Vista. This really is one of the most mysterious places we have ever visited in the Pacific Northwest. It's actually a little cemetery right here. You know, the trail up there is not very clear. interesting how the cemetery, this historic cemetery, seems to stretch along the trail leading up to the mausoleum. Afterglow Vista. Wow. I feel like this is where the Council of the Wise met in Rivendell, where they decided on the fate of the ring. Holy moly, wow. What do you think of this?
This is beautiful.
The things that money can buy.
Yeah.
Wow.
Do you think there's 5 people being memorialized because there's 5 chairs?
Yeah, probably. Well, actually, there's a name
Are there?
on each chair. Oh, that's interesting. They all have a Republican, Methodist Republican on them. Knight Templars, Noble Mystic Shrine. I think these people were Freemasons. I'm a little too superstitious to sit in the chairs.
You are? I don't think I am.
Oh, well, you better do it.
I'll sit with Dorothy here. She seems cool. I don't know if I can fit. Let's see if I can fit. Oh, I fit okay. Yeah. Thanks, Dorothy.
That's interesting. They purposely built a broken column.
Yeah. And there's no chair on that side.
That's true. Aaron pointed out something interesting. There's the same number of columns as chairs. So what? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 columns. And then where there's a broken column, the chair's missing.
If anyone knows the significance of the missing chair and the broken column, please let us know in the comments.
Wow.
These are great chairs, by the way. I sort of like the idea that you could like come up here and do, you know, like a meal with your deceased loved ones.
Yeah.
Although I have a feeling that there was some occulty stuff at one point that happened here. It seems pretty occulty.
This is really crazy. So McMillin owned the lime mill company there in Roche Harbor, and apparently had a lot of money, because even after his death, he was spending money. I don't really know what to say other than I think we need to take the ring to Mordor and destroy it in the fires of Mount Doom.
Yeah, or close some other portal to the underworld.
Maybe if we sit here long enough, we'll be transported to another world.
We better not.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm kind of speechless. This is uncanny.
We didn't bring enough supplies for a trip into the Upside Down.
No. Look, there's mosaic on here,
yeah.
little tiles. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't know where the actual crypt or burials would have been other than maybe just under the folly. I'm calling it a folly. It seems like
Folly-esque.
That's what they would call it in the UK. The McMillin family mausoleum was built by John S. McMillin as a memorial for his family and for the things in which he believed. It incorporates symbols from Masonry, the Bible, and the Sigma Chi fraternity, all of which were important to him. He also incorporated his own views of family unity. The structure is approached by two sets of stairs, representing the steps within the Masonic order. The stairs on the east side of the mausoleum stand for the spiritual life of man. The winding in the path symbolizes that the future cannot be seen. The stairs were built in sets of 3, 5, and 7. This represents the 3 stages of life: youth, manhood, age. The 5 orders of architecture: Tuscan, Doric, Iconic, Corinthian, Composite. The 5 senses and the 7 liberal arts and sciences: grammar, rhetoric, logic, arithmetic, geometry, music, astronomy. The columns were created to be the same size as those in King Solomon's temple. The broken column represents the broken column of life, that man dies before his work is completed. The center of the mausoleum boasts a round table of limestone and concrete, surrounded by 6 stone and concrete chairs. The chair bases are crypts for the ashes of the family, while the whole represents their reunion after death. The construction of the mausoleum began in 1930 and was completed to its present state by the spring of 1936 at a cost of approximately $30,000. McMillin had planned to erect a bronze dome with a Maltese cross atop the edifice. He had ordered the dome, but his son Paul canceled the order as the company did not have the $20,000 it would cost.
The McMillin family mausoleum is really, really amazing. It's so beautiful here, and it's really majestic, and it feels like a very spiritual place.
Do you still think occult practices have taken place there?
Yeah, absolutely. I don't see how people could resist.
One thing I'm pretty sure of is there's been some partying going on there at one point or another, because there's multiple signs on the way up here and here telling us no alcohol.
Yeah.
Walking up to the circle of columns, it really felt like we were approaching an ancient temple. And one couldn't help but feel a little spooky, like we were at some sort of occult site. This really is one of the most unusual places we've visited in the Pacific Northwest. Friday Harbor was first occupied by the Northern Straits Coast Salish people thousands of years before the first Euro-Americans settled here. This wooden sculpture here is called Interaction, and it's by a native artist named Susan Point. This is a red cedar house post sculpture honoring the enduring presence of the Coast Salish people in this area. Originally used inside a longhouse to support roof beams, traditional house posts tell the stories of the family that raised them. Interaction speaks of the San Juan Islands. We care for the environment and the responsible interaction between people and wildlife. Susan Point is from the Musqueam band of Coast Salish, whose lands include the mouth of the Fraser River in Canada. The town's name originates from a native Hawaiian named Joseph Poali Friday, who settled here during the last half of the 19th century. Friday Harbor was officially incorporated on February 10, 1909, and remains the only incorporated town in the San Juan Islands. Sailing ships, and later the steamships of the Puget Sound Mosquito Fleet, visited the harbor on a regular basis, hauling passengers, mail, and freight. The only way to arrive to the island by car is to take a Washington State ferry. Well, We're about to leave San Juan Island, and I'm walking around doing a couple more shots. And Aaron's in line getting some coffee. What do we have right here in the Memorial Park? Okay, this is a little monument to San Juan Island veterans of World War I. I guess he died in World War I. It's actually a little fountain. Okay, so this little memorial is for all the different wars. It looks like casualties for San Juan County in World War II. The small town and villages on other islands lost 9 men to the war effort, a significant number given the rural population of the county at the time. The Women's Study Club then focused its efforts to raise money for a monument to honor those local men who lost their lives in service. So this is an early picture of Ferry Harbor on the main street there, showing the location of this memorial park. November 11, 1921, Memorial Park was officially dedicated to the memory of the servicemen of San Juan County who died during World War I. The granite monument bears a bronze plaque listing the names of the fallen. The 2 elms represent the Army and the Navy. For many long-time island families, this site is considered sacred ground. Each year, Memorial Park is the focus of Memorial Day, Veterans Day, and 9/11 commemorations. We just left San Juan Island. So Aaron, what are your thoughts on San Juan Island?
I loved the McMillin Mausoleum. I felt like a really kind of semi-spooky but spiritual place. It's kind of hidden in the woods.
Yeah, actually I really like the McMillin Mausoleum myself. I don't know, it kind of had a old world vibe to it, and I felt like we should be contemplating what to do with the Ring of Power.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, it's definitely something you want to see if you go to San Juan Island. That's was a favorite of mine as well.
Yeah. I also really enjoyed English Camp. I thought the flower garden there was really cool, and the landscape itself was really beautiful.
Yeah, and if you look for it at English Camp, you can actually see what's left of a prehistoric shell midden.
I also really enjoyed Ferry Harbor itself. It's a really quaint town, but it seems to have lots of shops and coffee shops and restaurants, and it's just a nice town to walk around in.
Actually, I really like the redoubt, Robert's Redoubt. If you're into military fortifications, it's pretty cool to see the earthworks there and where the cannons would have been placed. So I thought that one was pretty cool. That was at American Camp. As for the towns, while Ferry Harbor's cool, I really liked Roche Harbor. It had kind of like an English village on the coast vibe to it. It's a historical village right on the coast with its own harbor. History of lime kilns there, and there's an old hotel there, lots of restaurants and stuff. It's pretty cool. I personally think that Roche Harbor is a highlight of San Juan Island. Well, that's our video on San Juan Island. I hope you enjoyed it.
Don't forget to like, share, comment on this video, and please subscribe to Searching for History.
Thanks for watching.